Alright, for today's video I'm going to show you guys how to rendezvous towards a craft you already have in orbit, and I'm going to be showing you how to dock to that craft, because some of you guys seem to have some struggle with it. So in this first little bit here, I'm just making a little station, nothing fancy, just some monopropellant and reaction wheels and some fuel. Just the basics to get around. Now a little note for these RCS thrusters, you can see I pulled up the center of mass, and I'm putting the thrusters around it. That way the center of thrust is right in the middle of the center mass, so it doesn't wobble around and try to turn when you're just trying to move the station left or right. Now these docking ports, I'm putting them by the center mass, just so that, you know, when you're docking, it pulls the station towards you, or pulls the craft straight towards the station if you have a way bigger station. It's just some things I like to point out, because some people are like, why the hell is the docking acquired force pulling my whole station out of orbit? Or something like that. And then I just put some solar panels on it because every probe core needs some of that. And I put a larger docking port on the bottom in case I ever wanted to dock anything big on it, which I will never do, but it's nice to have. Now that we have an orbit, we can just mess around with it, see everything's working. By the way, I cheated this into orbit. I didn't feel like making it a launch vehicle. Now, we also need that antenna on there. And it's a relay because if other satellites are docking to it, such as if they're carrying fuel to refuel the station, they can receive toward this, and they don't need to carry extra mass. So here I'm just building the craft that's actually going to dock and rendezvous towards the station. It's just going to include a recovery stage, which is that little top bit. Docking port on the top. Do not forget the docking port, we were kind of screwed. There's no way to go onto it without like a grabber arm or something like that. I also put a little nose cone on there just to reduce drag a bit. Alright, and then I'm in inner stage here with a swivel engine. Swivel engine just has a tad higher space ISP, so it's much more efficient in space. I also added some monopropellant where I thought the center of mass would be after the inner stage, which is what I call it. It's not really called that. I don't know what you call it. I just put some monopropellant on there. That way you have a bit easier time docking the station. Then I was figuring out what to do with this first stage here, and then I was like, wait, I can just use some asparagus staging, and then I replaced the middle engine with the swivel. That way it's more efficient. And then I put those fuel lines in. Now if you're in early career, you might not have those, so you can just make the staging so that the swivel engine doesn't burn at all. So when you press space, you see how it's ignited now? That doesn't have to burn. You can set its mat, like, just set it to your liking, honestly. Whatever you need in orbit, the same principle will apply. Interesting thing here, I had a lot of thrust to weight for this, so I was lowering my thrust just so I wasn't seeing those drag effects for like passing the sound barrier and all that. And this craft was also way too strong. It was a bit too overpowered. I didn't need a full fuel tank of for that top stage there. It just had way too much. It basically made the station useless because when I got to orbit, I had a full tank. For the last stage there, you could have gone to like the MUN and landed, which is what I do after this, after fueling from the station. Now what I'm doing here, I would not copy this for your orbital turn, mostly because I'm burning an angle just to make a little example later, which I'll show you. So you'll see here I'm just circularizing now by burning sideways. And you see I'm still in the inner stage, which I like to call that, it's really not. Another thing I like to point out, the station is going to be higher than our orbit. This is mostly because it was already going orbital velocity when I was still going off the launch pad. So that's why it's quicker. But it's also higher than us, which means once we circularize our orbit, we'll actually be a bit slower. Or no, we'll be a bit faster than the station, sorry. The lower your orbit is, the faster you are relative to like higher up orbits. Which is a little tip that can help you if you're struggling. Like here I don't even use maneuver nodes or anything like that. I just do them all eyeball it, which is what I do for everything, honestly. If you use maneuver nodes, you're probably learning. Alright, now here I'm pointing out something. You can see both of our crafts are at different speeds now. I showed you that there. If you want, you can pause the speeds there. But another thing, I put us into an angled orbit, so we're basically cutting into its orbit at one point. That's what the ascending node and descending nodes are. The ascending node means you're going basically towards the north pole of the planet or celestial body you're in influence with, compared to the station in this case. So we'll have to burn south or downwards. Now that we're here, we'll pretty much show you how it works. Unfortunately, it was during the nighttime. Well, nighttime, you're just in the shade of the planet. But that's really what nighttime is. Then as we burn southward, you can see our ascending node drops, but so does our descending node. And I keep burning until it starts going a bit too far away. It was kind of like 90 degrees. And when that happens, what you can do is just go towards the other node or descending node, or just time warp to any of the nodes really, and then burn there to fully align your orbit. Just like that. Now that our orbits are perfectly aligned, you can see that the station is a bit behind us. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to slow down. So at first you might think, yeah, let's just burn retrograde. That should get us right to the station. But the thing with that is, if you were to do that, you would just fall into the freaking atmosphere and burn up, or crash onto Kerbal. Here I'm showing you that. There we go. What I did there was turn prograde and started burning. And now I have an intercept point. Well, two of them. One of them, the second one, will actually approach the craft way quicker, mostly because you're spending more time at a higher altitude, which is where you're slower in your orbit, relative to intercept point 1, where you're just barely higher than it, and you're starting to go slower. This actually has the whole apoapsis that goes through and all that, which is why I'm aiming for the second intercept point. Now that I've time warped to the intercept point, I kind of a little jump cut there. You zero out your velocity to your target. You just click on your speed indicator and it will actually change to what you want, like surface, orbit, target, all that kind of stuff. Then once you're slowed down, you can just burn straight towards it. It's that easy. That's your rendezvous complete, by the way. The whole rendezvous stage is that. Now we got docking. What I like doing is pressing control from here on your docking ports. In case you have like a docking port on the side of your vessel, you'll actually point where the docking point's pointing instead of where your capsule is or something like that. In this case, it's on the top, so it didn't really matter, but I like doing it anyway. It's peace of mind, really. Now on the station, pick a docking port on the side. Any docking port's fine, honestly. And there I was just targeting the docking craft, and then I set my point of control onto that docking port, and then I pointed at it. Now that docking port is directly aligned to our craft. If you double click on a part, it will target an individual part, which is a pretty handy tip to know. Because, well, if you didn't, you'd be pointing straight towards the primary part of the ship, which in this case would be the station's core, or the probe core, which would make us go just ram right into the solar panels. Now for docking, it's really just a practice, but keep your prograde onto that target marker. If you don't have RCS because you're like early in on a career mode or something like that, you don't really need it. You can do it with just an engine. And boom, you've docked. You don't need to be going too slow, but it's probably better to do that because then you're not affecting the orbit as much. Because if you ram into your space station, you are affecting the orbit. And just like that, oh yeah, for the fueling. I should probably say this. If you hold Alt and right-click both fuel tanks, you can maneuver the fuel, or like tell the fuel where to go. To do this though, you're gonna need your R&D center leveled up. And that's pretty much this whole video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, leave a comment as well for tips for voiceovering. Pretty much, I feel like that's the main thing I am not good at. I'd rather have made another PowerPoint or something like that. That's pretty much this whole video. You can exit it now. You can leave. I'm just going to the mine on this little scene. A little tip here. If you double-click the celestial body you're going towards, you'll actually focus on it, and it'll show you your orbital path there. It's way easier. It helps with your burns and all that. Haven't used a single maneuver node like it should be done. Don't use them. Unless maybe for Minimus, for your like intercepts. And then I just land on the moon. Alright, hopefully you guys did enjoy that, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.